Alright, CNT120, we're working on our Chapter 2 lab. We're looking at the second type of addressing that we encounter, and that is our port numbers. So what we're going to do is we're going to, with a protocol analyzer, Wireshark, we're going to capture some port numbers that we encounter when we're doing some basic work on our system. I can actually do all this on the Linux VM. I'll show you at the end how to do it if you really want to, but that's not going to be the scope. So we're going to do all this on Windows for now. So I will set my Linux VM aside, slide this guy over here, and on our desktop we should see our Wireshark fin. I'm going to launch that guy, and this is what's called a protocol analyzer. What this does is this actually captures packets off the network in real time that allows me to open the packets and look at them. Now, warning, warning, warning. This is a very powerful network admin tool. This is something that it's okay for us to use in our labs for learning. It's okay for you to use on your system at home on your network, but don't try to install this or run this on any machines that you have at the place you work, or if you have it on your laptop and you take it to work or something, don't run this there, because it's going to look like you're trying to do something nefarious. So we're using it for learning, but it is something that is very powerful, and it's kind of like, if you had to relate it to anything, it'd be like kind of walking down the street and opening your neighbor's mailboxes and looking at their mail, which obviously don't do that. That is a federal offense. Don't do that. But that's what this is like. That's why network admins would get very nervous if they see you running this. So it's okay for us to do it in the lab. It's okay for you to do it on your system at home. All right. There is my, but don't do it at work. Okay. There's my disclaimer. Once we launch our Ethernet here, our Wireshark here, we are going to select our NIC, and our NIC in this case is our Ethernet 3. That's the one we're using. That's the one our system is. What I will do is I will launch that guy, and it's going to start capturing packets off the network, whole bunches of them. Okay. I'm then going to open my browser, so I'll open up my Firefox browser, and I'm going to go to a web page I have not been to at all on this machine. So I'm going to go up here to IMSA.com. That's a racing website I like to go to check out the latest news on endurance sports car racing. Now that that's loaded, I will come back to my Wireshark and I will hit stop. I have captured, what I've done is I've actually captured all the packets that were on the network flying by when I went out and loaded this web page. So I have all the packets I need, so I can stop the Wireshark. I'm going to minimize my web page just to make my life a little simpler. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look for some particular packets. Well, for me to load a web page, one of the things that needs to happen is my machine needs to take the name I typed in, IMSA.com, and translate that into an IP address. So it's going to issue what's called a DNS. It's going to issue a DNS request to a DNS server saying, hey, Mr. DNS server, do you happen to know the IP address of IMSA.com? It'll look it up. It should have it in its registry. It'll look it up and pass it back to me. If it doesn't have it for some reason, it goes and finds it and then passes it back to me and gives me the IP address of this website. And then I can actually make a connection to that website and download the website. So I'm going to do a filter in here for DNS, and I'm going to try to look for the packets that my machine issued to IMSA.com. So I'll scroll down through here and I see all kinds of stuff, but I'm looking over here to see if I can't find by chance an IMSA.com that I issued for my machine, from my machine, if you will. I'll see if I can find it. Here we go. There's a query. There's an IMSA.com query, and up here's the query, here's the response. So there should be my request that I made to the DNS server of, hey, do you know the address of IMSA.com? Now, what I'm going to tell you to do, here's the Wireshark, we'll go to the next page here. Once I find my DNS query, I'm going to do a follow UDP stream. Now, before I go any further, if you're having trouble finding, this right here is your source IP. This is the DNS server's IP. So over here, you'd be looking for your IP address and the website you tried to launch. Now, again, I would stick with something simple like an ESPN.com, IMSA.com, something mainstream that you go to. Don't get anything fancy like, where you would log in and do banking or anything like that. That can get kind of fancy. Just stick with a plain Jane website that you might load. Okay, now that I have that, I'm going to right-click on top of this, and I'm going to do follow UDP stream. Okay, and I say that, this is going to pop up a little filter. Okay, I'll say close. It's now going to show me all the DNS queries and responses that my machine had with the DNS server. And it looks like it did it twice until it got the actual response it was looking for. So here's my query going to the DNS server, and here's the response coming back. This is what I'm really looking at. Now, I'm going to slide this up a little bit. These are the packets I captured. When I did that little filter thing, when I did the little follow UDP stream thing, it put a filter in that's only showing these packets in this communication session. As I highlight these packets in the middle window here, this guy right here, I am actually seeing the contents of that packet. Well, let's stop and look at that first before we go any further. As I highlight this DNS packet up here, in here is showing me the contents of it. Almost like pulling the mail out of the mailbox and then opening the envelope and pulling all the contents out. What I'm going to see is, here's my DNS header. Hopefully you remember from your data encapsulation that we talked about. Here's my DNS header. Here's my UDP header. Here's my IP header. Here's my Ethernet header. Well, when it got this data off the wire, the first thing it got and opened was the Ethernet header right here. So this is going to contain the source and destination MAC address. Okay, that's what this is going to contain. Now, this was going from me to the server, so the source is my Dell MAC address. The destination is some Cisco gateway router kind of thing. That's where this is going to get to the DNS server. That's where it's headed. There's my Ethernet header. Well, the next thing it opened after it opened the Ethernet header was the IP header. Here's my IP header. Here's my source and destination IP addresses. Source IP, my machine. Destination IP, the address of the DNS server. And let me close those. Now the UDP header, because DNS uses UDP. UDP, if you remember, is connectionless, very streamlined, not lots of info. It just kind of sends it almost like a little postcard. The source IP, this is coming from my browser. The destination, the source port number is coming from my browser. That's a dynamic port number. And the destination port number 53 is the port number for DNS. If I were to take 2 seconds, let me pop this guy up here and do TCP port numbers. If I look at my common TCP and UDP port numbers, if I come down here to 53, what I'll find is, there's DNS. Yes. Okay, so my destination port 53 is DNS because it's going to a DNS server. And then sure enough, that's my transport layer header. My application layer header is my DNS. And this is the query. I sent a query to the DNS server saying, hey, do you happen to know the address of IMSA.com? Well, if I come down here and follow the result or the reply from the DNS server back to me, what I'll find is in the response, here's the query, hey, what's the address of? Here's the answer. It's responding with, hey dude, here's the IP address you're looking for, 191.237.2774. That's the address of IMSA.com web server. So now my machine actually has that IP address, and I could go talk to that web server and download that web page. Alright, so before I leave here, I want to save this. Then I'm going to show you 1 or 2 more tidbits. So the next part is I'm going to save these packets for submission. So I will do a file, export specified packets. I'm going to go to my documents folder where I have 120 Brown. And I'll give this a name. I think I tell you to call it something like, what do I tell you? Oh, DNS port capture. Yeah, DNS port capture. DNS port capture, something nice and simple. And I'll leave the suffix alone here, or the file extension alone, pcapng. I'll leave that alone and save that. What that does is save these packets as a Wireshark file, and I can open those packets and look at them. That's what that did for me. So I've saved these packets in a file that I can open on Wireshark and see them at a later time. Alright, so there is my quick example of port numbers. In this case, I was looking at DNS. I was looking at packets going to a DNS server, so I was looking at DNS port numbers. Well, before I leave this, I'll show you real quickly. I'm at packet 568. I'm going to clear my filter up here. If I look at 568, shortly after this, I should hopefully find me talking to that 191 web server. So I should see me, 172, talking to 191. Here it is, 172.23.164, 191, 237, 2774. I'm pretty sure that's the result I got back. If I follow this now, if I follow this TCP stream, what I'm going to see is this me talking to the web server, me to web server to me, me to web server. There's my TCP three-way handshake. Hopefully you remember reading about that too. There's my TCP three-way handshake, me talking to the web server, trying to get the website. And even if I look at this packet right here, here's the HTTP, here's me asking for the website, and now my port number here, if I look, here's the source port coming from my browser, there's the destination port of 80, that's HTTP, this is me talking to a web server. So, this is what port numbers are all about. This is what we're looking for. I didn't need you to do this last little part I showed you, I just figured I'd show you for fun while we were here. I'm going to close Wireshark out. I don't need to save any of that. I already saved my packets. And what I will show you real quickly, on the Linux side, I'm not actually having you do this, but on the Linux side, you could, in your VM, do everything I just showed you. I'll pull my VM back up. I'll log back in. I previously installed Wireshark on my VM. I could go to, I think it's under Admin. I go to Software Manager. Once I load Software Manager, I can come in here, I can do a search for, give it a second to load, I do a search up here for Wireshark. I can actually highlight this, and I previously installed it. I highlight this and say install. Mine would say remove because I already installed it. I do an install, give it a few seconds to do its install, and then under here, under Internet, I see Wireshark show up. Once I load Wireshark, this will commonly happen. It's saying, hey, permission denied. So what I actually need to do is I launch this with my command prompt and say sudo Wireshark, meaning I have admin privileges to do this. Excuse me. It'll give me an error on something didn't load. Okay, fine. But here is my NIC, and I can actually launch this and capture packets over here. You're going to get the same thing. The results are going to be the same. That's why I'm not having you do it on the Linux VM. But it is capable if you really, truly wanted to do it. So there is dealing with our port numbers, mainly in Windows and Wireshark, but looking at port numbers and kind of getting our feet wet with Wireshark too. We'll come back in the next podcast starting to look at IP addresses.